So two humanoid robots, they walk into your house. One of them is Tesla's Optimus robot. It kind of flexes like a karate kid. It thinks it's really tough. It wants to be a fighter. And then there's Figure 3, which is from a company named Figure that just was announced today. And this new robot, it just quietly loads the dishwasher. It goes and folds the towels. And then it goes and recharges by standing on this giant wireless phone charger. So the question to you is, which one's actually closer to the real helper? Which one do you want in your house? We have Figure 3, just announced. We're going to dig into that. And then we have Tesla's Optimus robot, which is very clearly I'd say the biggest competition in the world of humanoid robots and the race to become the best one.
Thankfully, I have moved to a safer neighborhood since back in the day, Josh. So I think right now I would choose the humanoid helper robot. I'm not one for folding my clothes that often, so I would love something to replace it. Speaking of, that is essentially Figure 3, which is the new robot released by the company Figure. The way I would describe it is a hyper-realistic humanoid robot that does a lot of housework, Josh. And the reason why this is important is this is something that not just myself, but many other people, I feel, would use. I've got the announcement video, which literally just released less than an hour ago. So Josh and I are like fresh off the press on this one. You can see it doing a bunch of things. It's sorting out groceries. It's cleaning the table. It is taking the dog for a walk, throwing a ball for the dog to go catch. It is placing towels for you. All in all, if you had put this in a human mask and human clothing, I would mistake it for a human, apart from maybe some robotic movements. And that's kind of like a lot of credit to how they built this. But in Figure's own words, the goal with this was to deliver a truly general purpose robot, one that can perform human-like tasks and learn directly from people. To realize this vision, our engineering and design teams completed a ground-up hardware and software redesign. So Josh, they built this from the scratch. This was a labor of passion for them. And I would say that there are 4 main highlights from this new robot, which makes it so special. Number 1 is something called Helix, which is their vision language action model. So if we think about ChatGPT, which is the most popular AI model, this is an LLM, a large language model, right? So you input text and characters and you get text and characters out. Now, for robots, they can't operate just from text. They need to use various other inputs like vision, audio, and a number of different things and translate that into movement, into sight, into sound. So a much more complex problem to solve, and the model, therefore, is built very differently. Helix is Figure 3's model, and it's their proprietary secret sauce. What they've done is they've trained this model to work directly with this robot, or rather the other way around. The hardware is engineered around this model specifically. One of the coolest things they highlight from this model and this new robot is the vision capabilities, Josh. So the camera architecture is pretty insane. It delivers twice the frame rate than its previous robot, 1/4 of the latency, which means that it reacts super quickly and intuitively, and 60% wider field of view, which means that it just sees things. It's better from a safety perspective, and it's way better in terms of like acclimatizing to your life. So it could catch out of the corner of the eye that Josh is exiting the room, and maybe it goes over to the sofa and tidies up the cushions for you, right? It's just way more hyper aware. The other thing, Josh, is the hand. And I know that's a really weird thing to raise, but have you seen a picture of this?
Yeah, hands, for people that don't know, they're the most important parts of humanoid robots. They're the most difficult thing to create and emulate. And Figure has a new attempt that they're calling tactile sensing, right? This is
Yep.
what we're looking at here with the cameras built in?
Yep. So what you're seeing on your screen, and for those of you who are just listening, is this hyper-realistic robotic hand, but it has a camera in the palm of it. And you might be wondering, well, why the hell does it do that if you've just told me about a camera that it already uses in its head, like its eyes? And the reasoning for this is, as Josh mentioned, the hand is arguably the most important part of humanoid robots, right? It's going to be carrying the things that you love, tidying up after you. You don't want it to break a glass. You don't want it to go smashing about the house. And so with this camera, it gives it a much better sensory depth for these tiny movements, for picking up a cloth versus picking up a box, how much force to use, how much grip to use. And that's what this camera is enhanced by. And it's really a completely new sensory suite, as they describe it, Josh.
Yeah, there's a couple things. One, with hardware devices, generally version 3 is when they actually get good. And I think that's probably the case with this. The first version is very much the beta version, the testing version. You're just happy to get something out of the factory. The second version fixes all the problems with the first version. That was a disaster. And then the third version has learned enough through iteration that it kind of understands the downfalls of previous generations and is able to build an actually good product that's usable, that's distributed at scale. And I think that's the case that we're seeing with Figure today, where they've made it through their third version. They have gotten their battle scars. They have the patches on their shirt, and they're like, okay, this is a good robot. This is a robot that will work. This is a robot that will add value to people's lives. And it actively is. One of the fun facts that I got this morning while I was reading about this is this robot's actually stationed inside of a, I think, BMW factory or Mercedes, one of the car dealerships. And it's actually in a factory.
3 months?
Yeah, it's actually in there working and doing things and being a productive robot. So that's a cool thing. I think second to that is the hands. You mentioned the hands. They have a camera in them. And initially, I was a pretty big hater on the camera because similar to the LiDAR conversation when it comes to full self-driving cars, it feels dumb and redundant to add these sensors that you don't need. Like, as a human, we don't have cameras in our hands. We got 2 eyes. And with those 2 eyes, we could do everything that we need. So why on earth would you spend extra money and technology on putting extra sensors in the hands? And then I was like, you know what? If I could have a camera in my hand, I wouldn't hate it. Like, you could kind of reach around things. You could see things that you wouldn't normally see if you could just stick an eyeball to both hands. So I think I'm starting to change my mind on how these robots are augmented, meaning I don't hate if you add a couple extra sensors in the same way that it's kind of a waste for full self-driving, but it's not quite for humanoid robots. And another thing is, in that video you were showing, it has like the tactile fingertips. And the fingertips are a really difficult part of humanoid robots too, because you kind of need to be able to feel things in order for it to work. Like, if you don't have senses in the tips of your fingers, you're not really sure how hard you're grabbing onto fragile things. And what Figure did with this is they added these tactile fingertips. We'll put them on screen right now. Yeah. And within those fingertips, they're able to detect up to 3 grams of force, which is pretty light. So you can touch some pretty light things. I wouldn't feel too worried about it touching fragile objects. And that's a really big deal. One of the cool things that we haven't mentioned yet that I actually loved is the fact that it has wireless inductive charging through the feet, which is something pretty new and novel. So this robot will kind of go around your house, will do the chores, and it will just stand on top of this little charging foot pad and charge itself up through inductive charging. And while it does that, it will dump off data at 10 gigabits per second on its millimeter wave length antennas to upload to the mega mind and further train these models. So it's a cool iteration. I mean, this version, I think they said it's 9% lighter than Figure 2. Its runtime is listed for about 5 hours. And it's good for about 1.2 meters per second in terms of walking speed, which is sufficient enough to be a version 1 inside of a house. And I think that's kind of what they wanted to showcase in this demo is, hey, the robot's good enough now that it works. Like, you could actually put this in a household and it will serve some sort of value. How much value? I don't know. Is it going to take 10 minutes to clean up a couch that would take a human 30 seconds? Probably. But it's going to do it while you're not there and while you're not thinking about it. And the same way I think people are very comfortable with like the Roomba robots, the ones that just kind of like scan through your floor and clean it up, like mops and vacuums and stuff. I think people will very quickly start to get comfortable with this. The one thing that I didn't hear about was pricing. I'd love to know what their strategy is for actually taking these to market. Do you find anything on pricing or just general go-to-market strategy?
No, is the simple answer.
Yeah, so there's probably no pricing yet, but what they are doing is they're building a dedicated plant just to stamping these things out. I think what they did with the previous iterations that really just didn't get the job done is they were custom tooling all of these things. So they made like custom tooling. They were creating these things using CNC mills. It took a long time. It was very expensive. They've built a new factory. They call it BotQ, which is all about die casting and injection molding and stamping. And these things are very scalable. They're very easy to make. They lower the cost quite a bit. So while they didn't talk about cost, they did talk about output, which is hopefully 12,000 of these per year initially, and then 100,000 over the next 4 years, which seems reasonable. I think a lot of times with these robots, the hardest thing is to make them. Like, we've seen so many sick robot demos that look incredible, but no one can make more than like 10 at a time because they don't have the manufacturing for it. So building a factory that is good for 12,000 units a year, that's great. That is a leader so far. I know Tesla has their new roadmap for the Optimus robot. They plan on making probably a lot more by an order of magnitude, but having solved manufacturing, or at least being on the way to solving manufacturing, is the most difficult thing about robots. So very, very optimistic to see that covered by the Figure team.
Yeah, I think it's really important to emphasize that this robot is completely autonomous. There is no teleoperator somewhere in a foreign country that's kind of like looking through the camera and seeing the actions that it does and improving it or helping it when it goes wrong. This thing sits in your home, it charges itself via its toes or feet or whatever it might be. And it just does things autonomously. It learns actively from your habits as well. So it's not some kind of pre-programmed robot. It's looking at everything through its camera feed, it's hearing things, and it's improving each and every day to become, your ultimate household robot. But here's the thing, Josh. It isn't just a house robot, actually. At the end of this video, and I'm going to skip ahead here, you see it as
That
a
looks so
concierge
cool.
at a hotel. I mean, I have to say, that's the coolest concierge ever. If
That's
I
so
walked into a
cool.
hotel and I had this guy telling me where to go, I would be like in awe, essentially. And this is their attempt to say, or Figure's attempt to say, hey, we've got the hospitality industry on lockdown as well, but we also have the manual labor side of things, right? So you're seeing one of the Figure robots delivering a package. So you can imagine Amazon deliveries or any kind of deliveries in the future being managed by your robots. I sure as heck hope that they are cheaper, that they are more precise, and that they don't damage my package. FedEx, I'm talking about you. You're looking at a factory version of this robot as well. Josh, you mentioned earlier that I think BMW is using it to construct cars. Now one of these robots can sort your packages out. And you might not think that that is cool, but that was a problem that Amazon spent upwards of, I think, $1.5 billion to try and automate with their own manual robots. So it is not an easy task. It is an incredibly costly task. And I'm sure that there are a number of different factories that would gladly use these things. So the point is, Figure 3, whilst it's being pitched to retail as this home robot, and whilst I think that's a really good approach, and that's why the majority of people will buy these things, I actually think there's a secret purchaser, which is in the industrial hardware world, where they're like, hey, I would love to use a pair of hands that are cheap and that won't break down and that can run 24/7 for me. I think that's great. And then the last thing I want to mention is I don't want to underscore the point you made, Josh, around scaling these things. Because as you said, like 100 robots doesn't really make an impact, but 100 million robots, now we're cooking. And Brett's commentary over here in this announcement video and in his announcement blog post was all around building this robot specifically to scale. The manufacturing plant that you mentioned that builds these robots was completely redesigned from the first version of this robot with this in mind. And so I'm excited to see whether we all end up with one of these in our homes.
Yeah, manufacturing is really, like, I can't understate how difficult that is and how much of a limiting factor that is in the success of these robot companies that we're talking about. I really respect and admire the fact that Figure is taking this very seriously, seemingly more so than nearly every other company outside of, I would say, Tesla. 100,000 it's a serious amount. I mean, that is a lot of humanoid robots to be walking around. The goal is going to be that number you said, Ijaz, like, can we get 100 million of these? How close can they get to 100 million? Because as these things get a little bit more valuable, more practical, they start solving more use cases, they start generating more productivity, that can offset significant parts of the economy. If you can go into factories, if they can take care of things at the house that a normal housemaid would do. These things are really important to get right, because if you get them right, there is an infinite upside in terms of demand for human labor. And if a robot can do human labor without any of the human downsides, that's a really big deal. And I think right now, Figure sits at the top of this race. I'm not sure I've seen any robots that are this good and have the capability of scaling.
Hold your horses, Josh. You're forgetting about the number one company. The number one man.
I would never.
It rhymes with Felon Husk. I have a cool video before we get into it, Josh, which is not an entire humanoid, but part of a humanoid. It's a hand. Can you explain what's going on here?
Yes. So going back to the hand thing, hands, most important part of a robot. They are it's surprisingly complex, our hands. Like if you're sitting here listening, just kind of play around. Yeah. So your hands have these things called degrees of freedom. A lot of people online call them DOF. And a degree of freedom is how many independent ways a joint system can move. The human hand, we have 27. So each one of our 4 fingers has 4 of them. Our thumb has 5 and our wrist has 6. So all of these things that our hands can do, move laterally, bend, fold, those are all our degrees of freedom. What you're seeing here in the Tesla Optimus demo is that this hand now has 22 degrees of freedom, and the previous was just 11. So 22 is the closest we've gotten to the human hand. And that's really important because once we reach 27, and once you get the dexterity of a human hand with the correct sensory inputs and outputs, you essentially have the full capability that a human does in terms of how you engage with the world. Because our hands, we can do 27 different movements. If a robot can do the same, in theory, there is no difference between our capabilities and a human robot. And what we're seeing here is, I mean, Optimus got pretty freaking close, and this is the hand that's going to roll out in their new version that we haven't seen yet. So I'm very excited and staying tuned for that. But Figure has also been on this challenge. And while I'm a little disappointed, I don't think they've specified how many degrees of freedom the Figure 3 hand has. It looks like it is a good amount. And we can go based off of the previous hands. So Figure 2, the previous robot, their hands had 16 degrees of freedom, which is pretty good because Optimus Gen 2 had 11 degrees of freedom. So they were very much ahead in terms of degrees of freedom. Figure 3, we don't know. They look pretty good, but maybe this is a good opportunity to jump into Tesla and what they're doing and just kind of quickly compare Tesla versus Figure.
Okay. So we're talking about different worlds here, Josh. To be specific, the other side of the world. This video was just all over my feed earlier this week, and it was the most bizarre thing ever because I was like, wait, this robot can fight. So what we're seeing on our screen right now is Tesla's Optimus Prime robot doing a martial arts session with a martial arts teacher. And it is surprisingly good. I'm going to start it from the beginning here. It's dapping the guy up, and then it goes into an entire sequence. And I guess the first thing that pops out to me here, Josh, is how agile it is. Look at it bouncing. Look at its hand movements, but also look at every other bit of movement. Its head, its legs. It's so fluid. It stumbles at some point, and then it corrects itself. I know we've spent a lot of time talking about the hand side of things, but it seems like Elon's been cooking up an entirely different type of robot, one which is pretty actionable. And I guess the point that's being made here is we have two types of marketing efforts going on here. In classic, I guess, robot style, you have someone that's like, hey, this is a productive robot. It can replace manual labor. It can work in your factory, but most importantly, it can help you in your home. It can help you fold clothes, right? And Elon goes in classic Elon style and says, I'm going to demonstrate how agile and competent my robot is, but through a fight sequence, right? And this wasn't the only video that was going viral this week. There was also this one where I thought this was super cool. He premiered Optimus Prime at the Tron Ares movie premiere, where he's basically sizing up to one of the actors here and, I don't know, challenging him to a fight, I guess. He's also dressed and looks like a Tron bot, which is super cool. I don't know, Josh, do you have any thoughts on this? I thought it was super cool.
Yeah. First, we can't call it Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime is the Transformer. This one's just Optimus.
I call it Optimus Prime. I know it's not Optimus Prime, but it is.
Okay, so this robot, I mean, again, this gets back to the intro that we were talking about. It's like, do you want this like very calm, cool, collective thing that's going to slowly get the job done? Or do you want this like freak of nature that's just going to like just maybe move fast and break things? I think they're kind of approaching it from two separate things. The speed and dexterity of the Optimus robot is remarkable. The fact that it is moving this quickly, this soon, is so impressive. At first, I thought that first video you were showing was teleoperated because a lot of the way that Optimus has been engaging with the real world has been through teleoperators. Basically, what they are is they're humans that will wear sensors on their hands, or maybe they'll use a body motion tracking suit, and they will move and control the robot basically manually. So the robot's doing the movements, but the AI isn't controlling it. It is the human that's controlling it. What was fascinating about this demo is that's the AI controlling it. There is no human input. There is no teleoperation. So the robot's just moving that fast. Now, how is this possible? And just going down the rabbit hole of Tesla's supply chain, I started to realize that the reason this is working so well is because no one else makes the actuators or the motors that this robot's using. The actuators being the way that the movement happens between joints. Tesla's building all this stuff in-house. And as a result, they're getting this really tight vertical integration loop where things are just moving faster, they're more efficient, they're getting faster at a higher accelerated rate. And going back to the manufacturing, Tesla already has that advantage of having factories and having scaled basically robots. If you think of Optimus like a car, it's very similar, except you swap out the wheels for some limbs. It uses the same type of machine learning model. And what we're seeing, again, throughout the entire Tesla stack is this vertical integration. So now they're having their AI training that happens for cars. They're merging that with the humanoid robot training. And now all this data is going towards one singular mission. And the same thing we had an episode a few weeks ago with the AI5 chip. Well, the AI5 chip runs in cars, but now it's also going to run in Optimus. So a lot of the manufacturing problems that Figure still has to figure out, Tesla has solved through the cars and is now able to roll it out at scale much quicker. I think this robot that we're seeing here is not going to be final form. It's not going to be the thing that's in our house. Supposedly version 3 is coming a little bit later this year. And like we mentioned earlier, version 3s are the good ones. We want to buy version 3s of robots. So we've seen Figure 3's version 3. We've seen Figure's version 3. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing Optimus's version 3 because it looks great. I trust Tesla as a company to manufacture these at scale. Figure very much feels like the Rivian of this space right now, where they are a clear second place with a chance to do something unique and novel. I think these early days are when they really have a chance to break free. And I think both companies are doing great. I'm bullish on both. I would love to get the opportunity to chat with someone from either of the companies so we can hear firsthand how Figure plans to kick Tesla's ass, because they got a very steep uphill battle coming.
See, I don't know if I agree that Figure's in second place here. I get your point around the manufacturing side being a really tricky one to resolve, but it seems like Brett and the team have spent an inordinate amount of time trying to figure this out. And I know recently, like, they raised a couple billion, and God knows what they're valued at right now. But it sounds like they also have the capital arsenal to be able to spend and figure this problem out. I'm sure they have a bunch of experts to work on that. But I kind of frame the end goal maybe slightly differently. Whilst manufacturing is going to be really important, you want to get a bunch of robots out there. I think the second order effect, which is the data that they get from these different robots, is going to be the real game changer, right? Because as we mentioned earlier, like, to train these vision language action models, you need a ton of data, which either doesn't really exist right now or is super hard to access, right? Think about like all this important manual labor vision data. Like, the people working at factories aren't necessarily wearing cameras, but now some of these robot companies are paying workers out there to wear these cameras so that they can eventually be replaced. I saw a bunch of videos from this happening in China. So I think this is going to be a race towards who can get the most comprehensive data and train the best model and translate that into whatever type of hardware component. And so I guess maybe a hot take would be some of these hardware components will eventually become incredibly commoditized. I think Elon is going to be the first one there because he's building it in-house, but whether it'll be the cheapest, whether it'll be the most scalable is to be determined, right? Like, will China be able to create a manufacturing plant and supply chain which is just so much quicker for the Brett Adcocks and Figures of the world to be able to tap in and buy their actuator separately and race ahead? I don't know, but it's going to be pretty exciting to watch.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess on a technicality, they are in first place. It's kind of like saying GPT-5 is the best model, knowing Gemini 3 is coming out next week. It's like, okay, sure. Like, you're the best. Enjoy your time in the spotlight, but like, buckle up because the big boys are coming. And that's very much what it feels like for Tesla. I wish both of them the best of luck. I am so stoked that we are getting robots that, like, the future is starting to look like the future. This is the coolest thing, is there is a very small window of time left where you can walk down the street and there will not be a humanoid, or you can go and do your errands for the day. There won't be a humanoid robot that you're interacting with, whether it's in your home, whether it's at a gas station, whether it's at a grocery store.
Dude,
these robots are going to be everywhere.
Walking on my high street.
A humanoid?
Yeah, a humanoid. It was called the Rizzbot, and it was walking around, rizzing people up. I don't know if you've seen some of the videos go by, but I found it hilarious. So I don't know. It's not mass appeal just yet, but I saw one.
Yeah, this is a very exciting time. I'm stoked for Figure. I'm stoked for Tesla and the team. Both are going to have phenomenal robots, I'm sure of it. And I am hopeful that the day will come very soon that we'll actually be able to try these. I'd love to have a robot walking around, cleaning stuff up, or just see them in our day-to-day life. Because for the people who aren't listening to the show, who aren't really on the cutting edge of technology, they don't understand what the hell is happening. They have no idea that we are on the cusp of, like, we have AGI coming, we have robots that act just like humans, we have all of this productive technology that is going to offset so much of their, like, day-to-day lives. And I think only once the robots start walking down the street, only once the robots are, like, in their face, will it feel like, oh my God, wait a second, what is happening here? And Figure is playing a very large role in making that a reality. So feeling good, feeling optimistic about the robots.
It feels like we're getting super close to the ChatGPT moment for robots, where they're actually quite good. They actually seem quite magical, and they add a lot of value to our life. I mean, like, look at these 4 pictures from Tesla here. You've got it doing housework, you've got it doing outside chore work, you've got it at the lab, cooking up something, God knows what, and you've got it in the sauna for some reason. I don't know why I would want to see a robot in a sauna, to be honest. But I'm sure a lot of you listening to this is like, well, okay, I've seen a bunch of demos. You guys have spoken about a bunch of launches, but there's no delivery time. All these Tesla Optimus robots are still somewhat not at scale yet, so we can't see it in our homes anytime soon. What can I buy right now? Well, I have an answer for you, and unfortunately, the video that's displaying it is a very violent video. But it is Unitree's newest robot. I think it's Unitree 3, which you can now buy from Walmart, Josh, for the casual price of $21,600. I thought this was fake, so I went on the Walmart website myself, and fortunately, can report that it is real. I do not advise abusing your robot, though.
What I've seen, it's funny, there's different tracks that these companies are taking. Unitree is very much taking the build a low-cost one and solve for the marketing first. So I see Unitree on like YouTube vlogs. I see people talking about it on Instagram.
Gosh,
it does these like
backflips, dude.
It's very impressive. It's very impressive. I think it's a dumb robot, relatively speaking, where I'm not sure it can do the things that we saw figure demo earlier in the presentation, but it's a very cool robot. And if like the same way that Sora 2 is amazing for the novelty, Unitree is incredible for the novelty. Like most people have never seen a humanoid robot walking around, let alone one doing a backflip that can stand up like this. And if you didn't grow up watching Boston Dynamics videos, you have never seen this before. So it's like this really incredible thing. And if you can get that for $21,000, that's someone's marketing budget. And you just slap your logo on this bad boy, you take it outside, you create a couple of videos, you are going to hit a home run in terms of marketing. So yeah, different approaches. Like Unitree is definitely the only one that you could buy right now. It's probably the worst in terms of intelligence, but it's sick. Look at what you can do to it. If you just want someone to wrestle with,
if
go do your
any
thing.
of you are listening to this and are tempted to buy one, please buy one, because I'm not. And let us know what your experience is like, because I would love to know what it's like to have one of these things in your homes. Getting serious for one final second, I want to highlight something that Brett Adcock made, the founder and CEO of Figure, when he announced Figure 3 today, which is there is no way humanoid robots scale without AI. And that's what it comes down to. Robots don't win if AI wins. And I think it's super important to push both industries forward. I do not think it's a coincidence at all that Mr. Musk has been so diehard on robots and AI. He's running XAI. He got a $2 billion investment from Jensen Huang that we spoke about yesterday. You should definitely go check that episode out. But all in all, these industries are really heavily intertwined with each other, Josh. And it's just amazing to see kind of both industries flourish at the same time. You and I, not too long ago, I think it was about 3 months ago, said on an episode, I'm getting so tired of new model releases every week. But realistically, we're a bit spoiled because it's such a privilege to be in a world where these models are rapidly advancing at such a quick speed. And now we're seeing the roots of that happening in robotics. So just all in all, a really exciting time.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's robotics is a whole different animal. Like to me, the intelligence part is a solved problem because so many people are tackling it. The difficult thing is can you build these things? Like the world of atoms and manufacturing is so much harder than the digital world of bits. And the intelligence is important, but to me, that feels like a solved problem. It's on these very few companies to actually make this a reality. Like this is a very difficult challenge that far fewer people are willing to take on. So we need Figure, we need Tesla, we need Unitree, even this little thing that's getting kicked around. Like building these things is the hardest part and it's not a given. So yeah, really, really optimistic. Grateful for Brett Adcock. Shout out to you, dog. You're putting in some really difficult effort fighting an uphill battle.
Show, Brett.
Yeah, come on the show. Please come on the show. Would love to talk to you. But Ija, I think that wraps it up today. Is that all we got?
Yeah, that is all we got.
That's a robot episode.
Thank you all for joining us to talk about our number one geek and latest hobby, robots. These robots are getting scarily more realistic every time we do a video on this, Josh. And I cannot wait for the Optimus grand release where we'll, I'm sure, do yet another review on these things. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. The feedback we've been getting once again from you guys on new topics that we should talk about or things that we missed has been superb. Keep it up. Give us DMs, comment on our YouTubes, and we will respond to you. And I guess that's it for now. We will see you on the next one.
Peace.